This new age will be defined by a competence and a compassion that have too long been placed at odds with one another. We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about. For years, those in City Hall have only helped those who can help them. But on January 1st, we will usher in a city government that helps everyone.
Like, what did Mamdani say in his acceptance speech in New York? He said there is no problem. What did he say about no problem too big for the government or too small for the government to fix? See what he said. Because I was like, boy, that sounds a lot like communism.
That's out.
So after Zohran Mamdani won in New York, Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon decided to talk about it on their podcast. And I'm not gonna lie, some of the arguments these two made really show how salty they are that the side they've chosen to endorse is basically on a steep decline in popularity, with more and more people realizing that Trump's main priority isn't working class people but the opposite, billionaires like Elon Musk, who get tax break after tax break while regular working people literally have to pick up another job just to pay their rent. Which makes calling someone MAGA feel more like an insult than ever, and I think Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon are very aware of that, but since they're in too deep, doing a 180 now is a little bit too late, considering that most of their audience is basically right-wing, and you can imagine how quickly they'd lose that audience if they ever dare to criticize Trump and his regime. Now, with that being said, Joe Rogan recently had Brett Weinstein on his podcast, and they decided to talk about Zohran Mamdani, which, as expected, the usual communist talking point was instantly brought up.
A lot of people think that the solution is make it bigger. Like, what did Mamdani say in his acceptance speech in New York? He said there is no problem. What did he say about no problem too big for the government or too small for the government to fix? See what he said. Because I was like, boy, that sounds a lot like communism.
That sounds like a terrifying misunderstanding about how the way things work.
It's going to be very fascinating to see what he's able to do and what he's not able to do and what the reaction is going to be. His victory speech draws concern as New York mayor vows no problem too large for government to solve. And I think it was too small for government to care about was the next point that he said. Something like, yeah, that's it. Or too small for it to care. No concern, too small for it to care about.
Man, that is...
You know, that's a call for a bigger government, right? And this is people's solution. Like, we have so many problems. We just need to redistribute wealth, and we need more government. Like, you're just going to redistribute it through the government. Like, is this going to help normal people? What helps normal people usually is a thriving economy.
Yep.
All right, first of all, let me point out the obvious. The fact that that particular article was from Fox News, that alone tells you everything you need to know about whether or not you should take it seriously. And about the US economy, I mean, how's that doing, Joe? It seems like the only thing keeping it from collapsing is the AI bubble. Once that pops, you'll get a real good idea of how terrible the US economy is doing under Trump. Which brings me to my next point. How is Rogan going to criticize Zohran Mamdani and his policies when the guy he endorsed is actively collapsing the US economy with his trade wars, the big beautiful bill, and all the other bullshit policies that benefit no one but his billionaire friends?
Is a thriving economy.
Yep.
That's what helps normal people. And the problem with that is some people have to get stupid rich when that happens, because there's some psychos that, you know, go full Jeff Bezos and, you know, you get worth hundreds of billions of dollars, or Zuck or Elon or any of these folks. You get into this weird place. But that's just an anomaly. And you gotta, as long as they're not criminals or not doing anything really fucked up, unfortunately, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But also, you don't have limitations on how much you can succeed. And this sort of competition keeps everything rolling, it keeps everything thriving, and you get a good flowing economy. Obviously, I'm not an economist, you can tell.
Well,
I mean, that's just not how the economy works whatsoever. The idea that billionaires are good for the economy is just insane, simply because when a small group of people controls a vast share of a society's wealth, the economy becomes top-heavy, That's when wealth inequality rises, meaning fewer people can afford to buy goods and services. Billionaires can only spend so much, so a large portion of their wealth just sits idle in assets rather than circulating through the economy. Simply put, every $1 billion held by one person is $1 billion not circulating through the economy. So once again, the idea that this kind of competition is good for the economy is absolutely insane, not to mention that most people don't even get the chance to participate. Only the very wealthy are involved in this so-called competition Joe Rogan is talking about. Also, I want to touch on Rogan's point, the one where he says that because billionaires don't have limitations, that somehow means regular working people don't either, which is just a lie, because one of the biggest limitations working people face is time. Some folks have to work 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, and when you're doing that, your time isn't your own anymore. You spend most of it working to the point where you literally don't have time for anything else. No hobbies, no side hustle, just the basics. Showering, eating, and sleeping, that's all you have time for. So the idea that somehow these people benefit from not having limitations perfectly shows how out of touch with reality Joe Rogan is.
But my point is, the other side of it is terrifying. Because if you decide what people make and how much they make, and who gets to decide? Men with guns.
I mean, do I really need to spell this out? Right now, at this very moment, the people deciding who gets to stay in the US are men with guns. And the whole system operates under the assumption that if your skin is brown, you're automatically suspicious or a criminal. So for Rogan to make that point without even acknowledging what's happening in the US right now is just unbelievably hypocritical.
It always goes down to men with guns, because at a certain point in time, you go like, fuck you, I'm not giving you 90% in taxes, and I've got a security team of 50 guys with machine guns, and we're held up, our bank is now fortified, like, hey, fuck you, and then you've got to respond, so you bring in the military. And then, I mean, this is every single time this has been implemented. North Korea, they said, we're going to take over the farms. That way everybody's going to have food. Now they're all fucked. And it all boils down to these psychopaths who chameleon themselves into position of being the solution to all that ails you. I'm the one, and I'm going to say the right words, and I'm going to have the right haircut, and I'm going to look presentable, and I'm going to sell you down the river. And I'm going to sell you down the river like all of them do.
I know Rogan isn't trying to make this point, but he ends up perfectly describing Trump and what he did with the MAGA movement. A lot of people bought into it simply because they thought Trump was charismatic, not because his track record was anything impressive. I mean, just look at his first term. It doesn't take long to realize how terrible he is when it comes to actual policy. But with that being said, let's move on to Tim Dillon, because he also had a few things to say about Zohran Mamdani winning in New York.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tim Dillon Show. Thank you for tuning in again. The new mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, has been elected. He is the future. He is the future. Get over it. If you're unhappy about it, get over it. If you have to wear a burqa, get over it. If you have to convert to Islam, get over it. So what? If you have to start understanding the faith, so what? It's not a big deal. What are you doing? What have you got going on that is better than that? Can I ask you? What do you have going on that is better than converting to Islam? People do it in prison, and a lot of them like it. So what's the big deal? What's the big deal? You don't have time to read the Quran when you're online at Just Salad and you're waiting for them to add a protein to your salad so you can go to your meaningless office job? Go read the Quran. So what? Who cares? What's the big deal? Obviously, he was going to win. This isn't shocking to anybody, and yet people still treat it as such. I get calls from people that were like, I can't believe this is actually happening. This is like Trump. when Trump won, people were calling me going, I can't believe this is actually. And I go, well, it was one of the options. It was like one of the only options. And the thing happened that everyone thought was going to happen.
The only difference is that this was the correct option, the option that actually represents people and is willing to fight for everyone, not just the same handful of billionaires who have made it painfully clear they don't care about anyone but themselves. This isn't the kind of vote that protects corporate interests or caters to billionaires who hoard resources and influence while pretending they're somehow contributing to society. So yes, the only difference here is that, for once, the winning choice wasn't the one backed by elites who only show up when there's profit involved. It was the one grounded in the idea that everyone deserves a fair shot, not just the people who already have all of the advantages.
He was a little cringe in his speech because he's like a theater kid. And a lot of these people are theater kids. So there's a moment of his speech. Now, I don't know if you have this, but if you can get up a moment where he goes, Donald Trump, I know you're watching, and I've got 4 words for you. Turn the volume up. And it was just a moment when you could see the theater kid in him. You could see that kind of cringe, you know, that theater kid, like just very unappealing side of him. Hopefully he keeps that at bay. Let's watch it so you can understand what I mean. Because, by the way, this is a departure from what he's usually acted like. He's been kind of composed. This feels a little bit like, it almost felt like he was breaking into song. Like he's like, Donald Trump, hear me now, I will. And you're like, all right, bro, chill the fuck out. Let's watch this.
So, Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up.
Yeah, I mean, it's you know. Yeah, okay. Turn the volume up.
I mean, this is exactly the kind of reaction you'd hope to see from right-wingers after Zohran's speech, because it proves something important. For the first time in a long time, you've got a Democrat who genuinely got under their skin. You can feel it in the way they talk about him, and the more you look at Rogan's reaction and Tim Dillon's reaction, the clearer it becomes that they're finally starting to realize something they never thought they'd have to confront: the fact that the MAGA grift they've been riding for years might actually be losing steam. For years, they've been able to lean on this idea that Trumpism was the unstoppable force in American politics, that the energy was always on their side, and that the left had no one capable of countering it. But now, someone gives one speech, one good speech, and suddenly these guys are reacting like their whole political ecosystem is being threatened. Because for the first time, they might be facing someone who can actually challenge the MAGA narrative, expose the nonsense they've been pushing, and energize people in a way they genuinely did not expect. With that being said, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.